So these are our kind of in-class notes and practice and examples for section 6.3. Okay, so we're going to start by looking at this bar to help us kind of visualize from 0 to 100% and also from 0 to whatever our total is. Okay, so I can see, right, 50% would be here in the middle, so they've broken this one down into 20, 40, 60, 80, 100%, and that would be all the way up to your total. So there's three kinds of questions we can ask with this kind of basic percent problem. I could ask, what is 40% of 60? Well, here's 40% of 60, the total, right? And my answer would be 24. And 24 is, they're looking for the part, right? How big is this part out of the total? Okay, we could also ask 24 is what percent, right? How much of it is shaded here? What percent of the total? And then my answer would be 40%. And that's a question where they're asking us to find the percent, right? And then 24 is 40% of what number? Of what number I'm looking for the total. So our answer here would be out of 60, right? Find the whole. So we're going to keep using these diagrams to help us set up the questions. I want you to add something here where when we talk about the part, a lot of time your textbook will use an A. When we want to find the percent, we'll be using a P. And when we want to find the whole, we'll be using a W. So if you just have those written down, you'll see that come up again. Okay? The other thing I want you to write down, of, the clue word of, is usually indicating that we're talking about the whole. So of the whole, out of how many, of what number, right? That's giving us the whole there. Okay, so we're going to do a couple examples of each type, right? Finding the part, the percent, and the whole. So just setting up this bar, if I want to find the part, let's see how we would do that. What number is 50% of 30? Well, there's that of 30 telling me 30 is the whole here. 50%. Well, we know 50% is right in the middle. I'll label 50%. And we would want to know what this is, right? Well, half of 30, or 50% of 30, would be 15. Okay? I'm going to do another one here. How about 75% of 30? Of 30 tells me that's my whole. So there's whole. I know 50% here, we just talked about that, would be 15. 75% would be, right, another 25% past 50. Here's 75%. You might calculate it, or here we're just estimating. An estimate is fine, right? So what's right in the middle between 15 and 30? That would be right here at 75%. So something at 22, 23, right? An estimate is fine. I'll do one more. How about 40% of 30? Well, of 30, so 30 is my whole or my total. 50% was here, right? Halfway would be 15. So just less than that, right? This might be about 40%. And they want to know how much would that be? Again, an estimate is fine, maybe, 12, 13, somewhere in there. You're just kind of using these bars to help you visualize it, okay? We'll see if we have time to come back to these, but I'm going to go on to the next section. What about if they're asking us to find the percent? Okay, well, 15 is what percent of 75? Well, of 75, so 75 is my whole. And I want to know where 15 would be on here. Okay, well, if I kind of think about 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, right? If you kind of picture breaking it up into chunks. So this 15 here might be about that much of the whole bar. Okay, so 50% might be about here. You could calculate it, right? Since I really notice that 15 goes into 75 5 times. You might know that that's 20%, or you could just make an estimate or a guess. Okay, so now we're looking at what percent is it? All right, I'll do another one here. 5 is what percent out of 20? So 20 is my whole. Okay, well, I know 10 would be half, 50%. 5 would be half of that. So maybe you recognize here that 5 is 25% of 20. Right? A quarter of it is shaded in. And sorry, I'm trying to zoom here correctly. Let's look at C, 18 out of 40. 18 is what percent of 40? Well, of 40, that tells me my whole. So 20 would be right in the middle. That would be 50%. 18 would be close to that, right? But not quite to 20, right? There would be 18, so they want to know what percent this would be. Maybe 40, 45%. You don't need an exact calculation here. So we're just kind of picturing it. I would say, 45%, just less than 50%. Okay? All right, so we're going to see if we have time to come back to these, but I'm going to keep going. So now I'm on the back side. Let's do a couple where we're finding the whole or the total. Okay? So this says 24 is 33 1/3% of what number? Right? Of what number means I'm looking for the W. I'm looking for the total or the whole here. So you may or may not recognize that 33 1/3 is the same as 1/3 of this overall bar. So 1/3 might be about there, right? 2/3. So if they're telling me 33% is 24, and they want to know what the whole or the total is, well, if this piece is 24, and this is 24, and this is 24, I could kind of put all those pieces together to get my whole or my total, and I come up with 72 here. So sometimes there's different strategies you could use. Okay, let's try a couple more. 13 is 25% of what number? Well, so here's 50%. Here's 25%, right? A quarter of it. So if this is 13, 13, 13, 13, right? I could just put all those together to get my whole or my total. So 13 times 4, and I get 52 for my whole or my total. All right, and I'll do one more here, part C. 110 is 20% of what number? So 20, 40, 60, 80, and then 100%, and I want to know what this whole is. So 110, 110, 110. So I can see, right, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100%. It would go in these 5 times. So if I take 110 and multiply it by 5 to get to the whole, I get 550. Okay, so I think we have enough time. I want you to pause here and go back and do the 2 that we skipped, right, in each of these sections. Go back to all the ones we skipped so that we are completely caught up all the way to here. So pause and try those, and then we can check them over. All right, before I put the answers down, I want to mention that some of these are just estimates, right? You don't have to be exactly on, but we do want to kind of check our bars, check our pictures, and have a reasonable answer, okay? So here we were looking for 6% of 30, so I estimated it was maybe about 2. 65% might go to here, so I get something maybe around 20. And then let's check these bottom ones. Now we're looking for the percent. Okay, so 50 is what percent out of 80? So here's my 50 out of 80, and I estimate that it's around 60 to 65% maybe, just over half. And then this is a good one, all right? 75 is what percent of 50? Well, 50 here is the whole. But 75 is even bigger than the whole, so I had to extend my bar past the whole even further, right? So now I want to know what percent I get here. Well, 50% of the original number is another 25, and we added that extra 25 here to get up to 75, so I added another 50%, and that gave me 150%. And you can have more than 100%. All right, let's check these two. So we are supposed to come back and finish these two as well. So 75 is 75% of what number? Well, 75 is 75% out of 100. And 81 is 45%, so just less than half of what number, right? I might estimate about 180, right? If I double this, that would be 90%, and then plus a little bit more, a little bit extra, okay? All right, so we're going to keep going from there and come back together right here. This is on page 2, right? All right, so when we looked at our bars, we had the percent, we had the part, and we had the whole, or the total. And if I kind of look at these pieces and rearrange them into a proportion, I could write it like this, that the part compared to the whole, right, like a ratio there, is going to be equal to this percent over 100, 100%, okay? And this is your percent proportion, okay? So your book abbreviates it, and like I said, we're going to abbreviate these. The part is A, the whole is W, the percent is P, and 100, okay? So label what's A, part, P is the percent, W is the whole. And this is what you need to use for every problem. Okay? And we already said the word of tells us the whole. All right, so I want you to take a minute right now. We're going to pause, and I want you to copy this down for every problem like this. A over W equals P over 100, and you're going to do that for every problem today. So pause and fill those in. All right, so your paper should look like this. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to label A and P and W. Okay, so I'm going to read each one and just put a little A or P or W by them. Percent, 40% is always P. Of, that's my clue that that's the whole. And what number, I'm looking for A. Right, let's do another one. 17 is what percent of 50? Well, what percent, I'm looking for P. Of, the clue word, tells me 50 is the whole, so 17 must be the part. Okay, so I want you to pause again and finish reading through these 6 and label A and P and W. And then we'll check that. Okay, take a minute to really check these and make sure you have the A and the P and the W labeled correctly. That's a huge part of being able to set up these questions. Pause if you need to go back and fix anything. All right. So now that I know what everything is, I'm going to put it where it goes, right? A over W. So A, I don't know. I'm going to leave it in A over W. P is 40% over 100. And here I have a proportion, and I just cross multiply it and solve for the missing one. So if you need a review of cross multiplying, right, this is going to be 100A equals... I'm making a mess on my paper. Okay, good thing we're almost done. So I cross multiply, right? 100A equals 2,400. Divide by 100 on both sides, and I get A equals 24. Okay? I'll do one more. So 17 is A. What percent? So I don't know P. I'm looking for that. Of 50 is the whole, so I put it where the W goes. And 100. Cross multiply. So 1700 equals 50P. This is what we did in chapter 5, so I'm not going over cross multiplying in a lot of detail here, but I finished cross multiplying to solve for the variable. And for this one I get 34%. Make sure you put a percent sign on it if it's a percent. Okay, I'm making a total mess here. So pause, you're going to finish the rest of these on this page. I'll throw the answers up so when everybody's ready you can check these, and then you'll just keep working through the packet. Okay, so when everybody's ready to check, here are the answers I got for those. So I didn't show my work for the cross multiplying, but for each of these, you just cross multiply for whatever variable you're still missing, right? cross multiply and solve.